Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to episode 5 of Takeaways. My name is Patrick Searcy. I'm Director of Marketing for ALN Apartment Data, and I'm here with the star of the show, Jordan Brooks, our market analyst. Jordan, how are you?
I'm great, Patrick. How about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Your article this month, it was called Unit Mix Continues Its Transition. It's actually something you and I have talked about quite a bit over the last, 4 or 5 years that we've worked together. And in the article, you outline some of the changes over time at both the national level and the Marketeer level. I'd like to start with the national level. Tell us a little bit about the topic and some of the data for the national level.
Sure. Well, the topic this month, really, we went back to the beginning of the 1970s and we tranched a property year built by decade. And we just looked at the unit mix changes over the last 5 decades, really. And one of the things that stuck out was, in particular, in the 90s and in the 2000s, there was a kind of a resurgence in 3-bedroom units that really came at the expense of the 1-bedrooms. So that was kind of the first major shift that we saw. And then more recently, really starting with the 2010s, we had a move toward efficiency in 1-bedroom units at the expense of the 2 and the 3-bedroom units. And for most of this period, really from the 70s all the way through the 2000s, 2-bedroom units were the most numerous of any floor plan type. And now, of course, that has switched since 2010 to the 1-bedrooms. And instead of in earlier decades where the 3-bedrooms were really coming on, now it's the efficiencies.
So before we hop into some of the trends for the marketeers, tell us a little bit about what ALN means by marketeer when we say that.
Well, so Marketeer just refers to one of 4 tiers that we assign markets to based on basically the size of their multifamily presence. And so it allows us to compare markets that might not even be necessarily close in population, but they resemble each other very closely in terms of multifamily presence. So I thought that would kind of be another interesting way to look at this. And sure enough, you can kind of see this trend toward the efficiency in 1-bedroom units coming first into the tier 1 markets, the 33 largest markets. And that started really in the beginning portion of last decade, coming out of the Great Recession. Think 2012, 2013 timeframe, we really started seeing a shift to these floor plans with less bedrooms. In the smaller tiers, it took a little bit longer. Part of that is that construction really started up in some of these smaller markets a little bit later, coming out of the recession, than in the largest markets. But the shift really didn't start in the market tiers 2, 3, and 4 until more around the middle part of the decade, and some of the smallest markets even a little bit after the 2015, 16 type range. So just to give our viewers some numbers on this, in the 2010s, tier 1 markets, again, those 33 largest markets by multifamily presence, 10% of units built in the 2010s were efficiencies. And that compares to at tier 2, it was about 6%, and then tiers 3 and 4 were each around 5%. So we definitely have seen more of a move toward efficiency units in particular in the largest markets, which again makes sense. But this is certainly a shift that we've seen kind of across the board. And that also has continued in 2020. We have to be careful about comparing, a decade's worth of data to just 1 year, but we can see in 2020 that if anything, it has kind of increased. It's not a trend that's kind of making a U-turn or anything like that. So when we look at 2020 construction, and I'll bring this back to the nationwide numbers to make it a little bit simpler here. 13% of units rather built in 2020 were efficiency units. 49% of units were 1-bedroom. That's the highest going back all the way to the 1970s. So as I said, 2020 and this coming decade, it appears at least initially that we're starting off on a trajectory where the trend that we saw emerge last decade looks likely to continue into the future.
Some might argue that 2020 was an entire decade.
You could definitely make that argument.
Yeah, it felt like a whole decade. So we like to talk about what's next, what's coming up for you. It is closing out the year 2020, breathing kind of a sigh of relief there. So tell us a little bit about what you're up to in the next month or two.
Well, we're going to have a blog post going up here pretty shortly, looking at national new construction this year, kind of a look back on new construction volume. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll be looking at 2020 multifamily performance from a variety of perspectives on the blog as well. So a lot of good content coming up here shortly.
You can also find us on social media to find out when those posts are going up. You can find us on Twitter at ALN APT Data or search for ALN Apartment Data on Facebook and LinkedIn. Make sure that you're also clicking that subscribe button and clicking the notification bell on these videos. That way you are always in the know with our latest videos. Jordan, happy holidays to you. And here's to a wonderful 2021. It's great chatting with you, and we'll talk with you next month.
Sounds good. Thanks, Patrick.